Australians are going to be saying to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after this astonishing leak has just proved that the couple have been lying about the security costs on next week's fake royal tour.
Why on earth should these two be given taxpayer-funded security in the first place? They are no longer working royals.
Australian viewers of the Mark Dolan show don't want to see Harry and Meghan. The reason why it went down well in 2018, Paul, is because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
40,705 Australians. That's the number flashing right now on a growing petition, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. The message on it is loud, clear, and impossible to ignore. It basically says they don't want this visit happening, and every single hour more names keep stacking up. Just today alone, 758 new signatures dropped in, pushing the momentum even further. And this isn't aimed at just anyone. The focus is straight on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The full title makes it even sharper, calling for zero taxpayer funding and no official support tied to their private visit to Australia. No gray area, no confusion. Just straight-up pressure building in real time. This whole thing started quietly, too. A Sydney-based group called Beyond Australia launched it back on November 14th, 2025, and for months it barely moved, sitting around 200 signatures like nobody was paying attention. But then mid-March hit, and suddenly everything flipped. The numbers exploded. 10,000, then 30,000, now over 40,000. It went from unnoticed to unavoidable almost overnight. Behind the scenes, things got even more serious. Beyond Australia didn't just post the petition and sit back. They went directly to major leaders like Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, NSW Premier Chris Minns, and Victoria's Premier Jacinta Allen. And they asked one key question that keeps hanging in the air.
Australians don't want them there. They're not interested. And they've raised a petition in Australia to say, look, if they do come, free country, but if they do come, they're coming as private citizens. This is not a royal tour, and we do not want a single penny of Australian taxpayers' money spent on the police protecting.
Will even a single taxpayer dollar be used for this trip? So far, no clear answers, just silence and distance. Government agencies are already stepping back fast. The Prime Minister's office said they're not involved. Home Affairs echoed the same. And federal police aren't commenting on any protection details. Nobody wants to touch this situation publicly. And here's where it gets even louder. Not a single Australian politician has come out to defend the visit. Not one. That silence is hitting harder than any statement ever could, and people are noticing. Now, let's be real for a second. 40,000 signatures in a country of 26 million isn't some massive nationwide movement. Even the organizers admit that. But it's loud enough to shift attention, loud enough that every politician now has to act like they didn't see it. And that changes everything. Because back in 2018, the energy was completely different. Australia welcomed them with open arms, no hesitation, no pushback. That was the belief, that they were fully embraced. But now, that image is starting to crack right in front of everyone. Flashback to October 17, 2018. Dubbo, New South Wales. Harry stood out there in pouring rain, no umbrella, speaking directly to farmers going through tough times. It was open to the public. Thousands showed up, and his message hit deep. He told them they must not suffer in silence, that asking for help was one of the best decisions he ever made. That moment built connection. But right now, the conversation feels completely different. And the shift is impossible to ignore. This is the same Harry who, back in 2021, openly said that privilege can put blinders on people.
These two are literally living a fantasy now. There's no royal visit. They don't even have a charity. This is all just a private money-making tool.
The PR and the pomp and pageantry almost of being part of the royal family, but they don't really want any of the responsibility, do they? They like to turn up to events, have a few photos taken, look like the charming, lovely people that they wish to present themselves as, and then go home. Then go back to California.
That moment stuck with a lot of viewers because it sounded honest, raw, and self-aware. But now fast forward to April 15th and 16th, 2026, and everything starts to feel a little different. The spotlight shifts to Melbourne Park, where a major event is set up. The Inter-Edge Psychosocial Safety Summit. Same topic, mental health, same country, same message about support and speaking up. And to be clear, this event supports Lifeline, a well-respected organization focused on prevention and helping people in need, Nothing here is aimed at them. But what people are questioning is the setup around it. Because when you look at the ticket prices, things start raising eyebrows fast. Platinum access, 2,378 Australian dollars. Gold, 1,978 Australian dollars. Those numbers alone already put this event way out of reach for many everyday people. Then, suddenly, just 9 days before the summit on April 6th, 2 brand new ticket tiers quietly appear. A delegate pass for $997 and a virtual pass for $498. That delegate option cuts the gold price by more than half overnight, and people immediately started asking questions about why that change came so late. Reports picked up on it quickly, pointing out the shift. But neither the organizers nor Harry's team have stepped forward to explain anything publicly. No ticket sales numbers, no breakdown, nothing. Just silence again, and that silence is starting to stand out. At the same time, other details are adding to the conversation.
Can I just tell you that Australia has tackled illegal immigration very successfully? And I think given the fact that Harry and Meghan are on their way, I think it's time to reactivate Operation Sovereign Borders, Paul. Just, airstrikes, get the boats out.
And that probably is what keeps him going. He's so sad and miserable in his own life because he's basically Meghan's spare handbag that he just feels better when he, slags off, as you said. He loves criticizing everybody except for himself.
Reports say Harry's speaking fee is sitting around 50,000 Australian dollars, lining up with what he reportedly earned at another major event earlier in the year. And then another claim surfaces, saying he may have been brought in as a last-minute replacement after another name became unavailable following unrelated document mentions earlier in the year. And that's where things really start to hit people differently, because the same message that once reached farmers standing in the rain now comes from a stage where even the lowest ticket is close to $1,000. That contrast is what's driving the conversation right now. This isn't about attacking the cause, it's about asking a simple question. When did that open, public moment turn into something behind a price wall? And who made that call? Because the people standing out in Dubbo back in 2018 wouldn't have been able to afford any of this. And now, the timeline shifts again, because this next part starts connecting pieces in a whole new way. Lock in one date, October 3rd, 2025. That's where things begin to line up. Now jump ahead to April 17th through 19th, 2026. A separate event in Sydney called the Her Best Life Retreat, taking place at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach. This event has one organizer, Gemma O'Neill, not the radio personality people might be thinking of, completely different person. And just to clear confusion, Jackie Henderson had already stepped away from that podcast earlier in the year.
Can't imagine why nobody's going, can you? I mean, it sounds so interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds so interesting. From a man who can't keep an employee to save his life, talking about workplace mental health
each year just to meet their minimum security needs. So I really think we can't frame this in any other way other than a pay for play, a desperate, grab for cash.
O'Neill is running this entire retreat solo through her company, Besties Australia. But here's where the timeline starts raising eyebrows. October 3rd, 2025. She purchases a 3-bedroom cottage in Fitzroy Falls, New South Wales, valued at just over 1 million Australian dollars. That's confirmed through property records and reported publicly. Then, just 7 weeks later, November 25th, 2025, her separate talent company enters voluntary liquidation. Official records, publicly documented, no rumors, no guessing. And when you line those dates up side by side, that's when people really start paying attention, because the timing is hard to ignore. February 20th, 2026. And this is where things start getting serious. O'Neill tells administrators she cannot contribute anything towards that's done. Repayment, 0. Her reasons are all on record. No personal savings, limited income, and a failed attempt to refinance her Sydney apartment. That's not speculation. That's officially documented. Then just 4 days later, February 24th, 2026, Grant Thornton, Australia, files the creditor's report, and the numbers hit hard. Total debts, 546,848 Australian dollars. And here's the part that really stands out. 543,548 of that is owed to the Australian Taxation Office. That's almost the entire amount. But it doesn't stop there. The administrators highlight something even more unusual, a 7-figure commission payment linked to an unnamed client.
Is some guy in Australia has gone, I'm starting up a wellness retreat. Who can I get to come and promote it and see if I can get some publicity for it? I know. I'll ring up the grifters in chief. I'll pay them a couple of £100,000. They'll come to Australia and I'll get loads of publicity, and lots of idiots might go there because they might think it's the home of, celebrity wellness. And that's what it's all about. It's completely a commercial deal. They're trying to make out that it's a semi-royal visit, right? It's not. It's literally hoping against hope that they get a free goodie bag at the end of it that might have a Rolex in it. I mean, it's that shallow.
And according to their own written words, there's no proper documentation backing it up. No loan agreement, no clear business purpose, no measurable benefit to the company. That's a major red flag, and they said it directly. They also noted the company may have been financially unstable as far back as December 2024. That pushes the timeline back even further than people expected. Now watch how fast things shift. Just 2 weeks later, March 11th, 2026, O'Neill announces Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, as the headline speaker for a luxury retreat. Ticket price, 2,699 Australian dollars. That timing is what's catching everyone's attention right now. And let's slow this down for a second, because this part matters. Besties Australia and the GMI agency are technically separate companies on paper. So any suggestion that money from one is directly covering the other, that's not confirmed. It's a question people are asking, not a proven link. But the question is still powerful. Who is actually financing this event, and where is that money going? Because right now, there are no clear public answers. Around the same time, O'Neill quietly deletes her personal Instagram. No explanation, just gone. And people watching this unfold are starting to ask something very direct. Who exactly was vetted before this event was approved? Because that step is usually standard. Now let's break down what that $2,699 ticket actually gets you. 2 nights at the Intercontinental Coogee Beach.
She's never sold, 100,000 quid's worth of jam, quite frankly.
No way.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And I see that she's off to Australia. She's copyrighted the As Ever brand, and she's going to land in Australia and she's going to get booed because people hate the woman. She's ghastly. She's toxic. She's horrible. She's ruined a young, once promising man who's now a husk of his former self, who cannot even stand up.
A gala dinner, disco night, Saturday lunch, yoga sessions, sound healing meditation, led by O'Neill, and a conversation moment with Meghan during the gala. Sounds premium, right? But here's the catch. That standard package includes a shared room. Yes, shared. If you're attending solo, you could end up splitting your space with someone you've never met before for nearly $2,700. That detail caught people off guard because most would expect full privacy at that level. If you want your own room, there's only one option, the VIP tier at $3,199. That includes an ocean view, a gift bag, and a photo opportunity. But again, that's an extra jump in price just for basic personal space. Now here's where things take another turn. A reporter from 7 News Ariana decided to attend as a regular paying guest. She paid the full $2,699 out of her own pocket. No special treatment. She made a simple request to keep her own room and receive a tax invoice. That's it. But the moment organizers realized she worked in media, everything changed instantly. Her ticket was refunded, access revoked, and she was told no media were allowed. The issue? That restriction was never clearly stated during the booking process. No warning, no visible rule at checkout. Ariana later detailed the entire experience publicly, including emails, and the situation started gaining even more attention. At the same time, the event's sold-out status began to look a little unclear.
As ever merchandise, I think she thinks we're, hicks down under that won't see through it all and be just so honoured that she's graced us with her spread.
The spinning tawdry event will be for 300 women, and we estimate that Meghan will probably make £100,000 from that weekend. Okay, that's good money for...
Earlier reports suggested all tickets were gone, but then suddenly, the website updates to say a handful of additional rooms have been released. That shift didn't go unnoticed. Online users quickly picked up on it, pointing out that it looked like organizers were trying to fill remaining spots. Others also noticed that the hotel dates stayed unavailable on the Intercontinental's own booking system for weeks, which raised another question about how much of the room block was actually filled. And when you step back and look at the full picture, it creates a very specific experience. You're paying over $2,600, flying into Sydney, and potentially sharing a room with someone you don't know. And if you happen to be connected to media in any way, you might not even make it through the door. That's why people are debating what this really is. Because for many watching, it feels less like empowerment and more like a controlled, high-priced meet and greet. Now, with all of that building at once, the petition, the ticket changes, the financial report, the media situation, the response finally comes. March 26th, a spokesperson speaks out publicly. The message is direct, the trip is privately funded, so the petition doesn't really change anything. Then comes the part that really got people talking. The statement points out that around 99.98% of Australians didn't sign the petition, suggesting that could imply broader support. But in the same breath, it calls that kind of assumption equally flawed. And that's what stood out the most, because it wasn't a clear defense or a straightforward answer. It felt more like a sharp, sarcastic response from a professional communications team trying to push back without fully engaging. And that tone,
Morning yoga classes, sound healing, a manifestation session. What the hell is that? What's going on, Samara?
Meghan is trading trash for cash at this point.
That happens to work in a media career. No, sorry, we'll take your money, then we'll kick you out. It's honestly, this has just got disaster written.
only added more fuel to the conversation that's already growing fast. That response. It didn't land quietly at all. It was aimed directly at over 40,000 people who had already taken time to sign that petition. And the reaction came fast. The very next morning, Beyond Australia fired back with one sharp line: silence does not equal consent. That message hit hard and spread even faster. Then more voices started stepping in. Royal. Biographer Tom Bauer went on record, saying this whole situation looks like it's being driven by money, calling it messy and uncomfortable. He pointed to earlier promises and suggested this direction doesn't match what was once said publicly. At the same time, PR analyst Maya Riaz added her take, saying that attaching a name to such a high-priced exclusive event during a time of public criticism just doesn't connect well with people. According to her, it feels out of touch with what audiences expect right now, but here's where things really flip. That petition on its own, it probably would have slowed down around 5,000 signatures if left alone. It needed something to push it further. And that public statement ended up doing exactly that. The moment it dropped, the numbers started climbing again. Another wave of signatures rolled in, adding thousands more. Instead of shutting the conversation down, it gave it even more attention. The situation didn't cool off. It got louder. And then another detail surfaces that shifts everything again. Internal planning notes shared with selected media on April 9th reveal a major decision. There will be no public walkabouts during this visit. Not in Sydney, not in Melbourne, not anywhere. The reason given? Security.
2023. It's basically an influencer blackout. Now, the difference, the contrast with Meghan is the fact that there is nothing. I am shocked. There is no excitement. There's no build-up. There's no one willing to break their silence, anyone of note, to say that they're actually going to the event.
Costs and maintaining order. That's the official explanation in the document. Now compare that to 2018, when everything was completely open. Back then, there were 76 public engagements across 4 countries in just over 2 weeks. Events at the Opera House, Bondi Beach, Dubbo, Melbourne, all open to the public, all free. Thousands showed up everywhere. People weren't just watching, they were connecting. Emotional moments, huge crowds, unforgettable scenes. One moment in particular stuck with everyone. A young boy hugging Harry on camera, an image that became symbolic of that entire visit. But now, in 2026, the approach looks very different. The schedule includes a children's hospital, visit, an Invictus-related event on Sydney Harbour, a women's shelter visit, a sports club stop in Melbourne, a rugby match, and a short visit to Canberra without Meghan. And here's something else that stood out. The retreat event isn't even included in those official plans. It's treated separately as a commercial activity and left completely off the main itinerary. That separation alone has people asking more questions, because everything now circles back to one central issue. Who is actually covering the costs? The petition focuses on taxpayer involvement. The retreat raises questions about private funding, and the official response says everything is handled privately. But for many watching closely, that answer doesn't fully clear things up. It leaves gaps, and those gaps are exactly what people are trying to understand. Back in 2018, the welcome was wide open. Crowds, energy, full access. It felt like the country was fully engaged.
The ridiculousness of the petition. He said it was a stupid assertion. In their response, batting back, that Australians had dared to say, hang on a minute, we don't want our money being spent on these two. So they were very, very rude with the reaction. Any other normal person would have been like, oh, look, okay, look, I do understand there are concerns, but we will be paying our own way. No, they came out with quite a combative statement. That was very...
Now in 2026, the situation feels completely different. There's a petition pushing back, a high-priced retreat under scrutiny, ticket changes raising eyebrows, and an official plan where the public isn't even invited to show up and interact. That shift is what people are focused on right now, because this no longer looks like the kind of open visit people remember. It feels controlled, limited, and very different from what came before. And this is where everything really comes together. Because when you step back and look at the full picture, it's not just one issue anymore, it's layers stacking on top of each other, all at once. And people are starting to connect those dots in real time. You've got the petition still gaining attention, refusing to fade out like most online campaigns usually do. Every day it stays active, it keeps the pressure alive, and it keeps the conversation right in front of the public. That alone changes the energy around this entire visit. At the same time, the pricing structure of these events is still being talked about everywhere. Not just the numbers themselves, but what those numbers represent. Because when access becomes limited to high-ticket tiers, people naturally start asking who the message is really for. Is it still meant for everyone, or only for those who can afford to be in the room? And that question keeps getting louder the more details come out, especially when you compare past moments that were open, public, and accessible to what's being presented now. That contrast is what's driving a lot of the reaction online. Then you bring in the financial timeline around the organizer, and that adds another layer people can't ignore.
Back furiously saying, no, no, no. Okay, 32,000 people have signed this petition, but 25 million Australians haven't. So therefore, they're very popular. When they get to Australia, those two, they are going to get booed.
Official reports, documented debts, and unanswered questions about funding, all happening just weeks before announcing a high-end event. Even without making any direct claims, the timing alone is enough to raise eyebrows. And people aren't just reacting randomly, they're paying attention to the sequence. What happened first, what came next, and how everything lines up. Because when events unfold this close together, it naturally leads to more scrutiny. Now add in the media situation, and things get even more complicated. A paying guest being turned away after being identified as a journalist, with no clear rules stated beforehand. That moment alone shifted the tone for a lot of viewers, because once access starts being controlled like that, people begin to wonder what exactly is being managed behind the scenes. Not in a dramatic way, just in a basic, common sense way. If everything is straightforward, why limit who gets to see it? That question hasn't been answered clearly, and that's why it keeps coming back into the conversation. Then there's the official communication, which instead of calming things down, seemed to do the opposite. The tone, the wording, the way the response was framed, it didn't settle the situation, it pushed more people to look closer. And once that happens, it's hard to reverse, because attention doesn't just disappear, it grows. The more people start digging, the more angles they find to talk about. Now think about the decision to remove public walkabouts entirely. That's a huge shift from what people remember. Those moments were a big part of building connection before. They were the part where everything felt real and direct. Without that, the entire visit starts to feel different, more structured, more controlled, less interactive. And whether that decision is practical or not, the perception it creates is what matters.
Excitement, there's no build. And it's almost like they don't want to be associated with her, with Meghan Markle, because it's really bad.
Because perception is what shapes public reaction. And right now, that reaction is mixed at best. Some people are still supportive, focusing on the charitable elements and the intention behind the events. And that side of the conversation is still there. But at the same time, another group is asking tougher questions. Not about the message itself, but about how it's being delivered, about access, pricing, transparency, and consistency. And those questions aren't going away. They're being repeated across social media, across news coverage, and across public discussions. What makes this situation stand out is that it's not just one headline driving it. It's multiple stories overlapping at the same time. The petition, the ticket changes, the financial reports, the media restrictions, the official response, all happening within the same window. That kind of overlap creates momentum. And once momentum builds, it carries the story further than anyone expects. Now here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about one trip or one event anymore. It's about expectations. It's about how public figures are seen versus how they operate in real time. Because when there's a gap between those two things, people notice. And when they notice, they start asking questions. And once those questions start, they don't just stop on. Their own. So now everything comes down to what happens next. Because this situation is still unfolding. Nothing here is fully settled, and every new update has the potential to shift the conversation again. Will there be more clarity about funding? Will organizers address the concerns directly? Will the structure of these events change in response to the reaction? Or will everything continue exactly as planned, with the conversation growing louder around it? Right now, it feels like the pressure hasn't peaked yet. It's still building, still developing, still pulling more people.
Questions are being asked about the appropriateness of this visit to Australia now. There's a cost of living crisis, and yet there you go. Meghan is swanning around like a Z-list or Z-list celebrity, as you say in America, charging money for selfies, essentially, at this Sydney retreat, where people are paying thousands of dollars and so forth. They clearly realise that they have no other role in life. There's nothing else that they can really do except for ape the monarchy, but they were supposed to have separated them.
Into the discussion. And that's what makes this moment different, because it's not fading out. It's evolving in real time. None of us were sitting in that room on March 26th when that moot point response was written. And that's important to remember. Everything being discussed right now comes from the same pool of public information, official filings, reporting from multiple outlets, public statements, and documented timelines. That's it. No secret access, no hidden footage. Just what's already out there for everyone to see. And that's exactly why the situation has taken off the way it has. Because when information is public, it doesn't stay quiet. People read it, compare it, connect it, and start asking questions. That's how momentum builds. And that's exactly what's happening here. You've got the petition numbers that kept climbing instead of slowing down. You've got the event pricing that sparked debate about accessibility. You've got the timeline of financial filings that raised eyebrows. You've got the media situation that added another layer, and then you've got the official response that, instead of calming things down, pushed more attention onto the story. All of these pieces exist on their own, but when you put them together, that's when the bigger picture starts forming, and that's the part people are focusing on now. Because this isn't about jumping to conclusions, it's about looking at what's been presented and asking how it all fits together. That's a fair question. Anyone following along is naturally going to do the same thing. Now here's where things get even more interesting. That February 24th creditors report, the one that's already been mentioned.
Two cretins literally accused the British royal family of institutional racism as Prince Philip lay on his deathbed as the late Queen Elizabeth II was battling bone cancer. Prince William will never forgive them, and you want to bring them back to us at a time, by the way, when their charity ventures
still has a detail that hasn't been fully unpacked in most conversations. A 7-figure commission payment, not a small number, a major one. And according to the administrators themselves, there was no clear contract tied to it, no documented agreement, no outlined purpose explaining why it was made. That's not an outside opinion. That's written directly in the report. And when something like that appears in official documentation, people are going to pay attention because it raises a very simple question. How does something like that happen without a clear paper trail? That's the kind of detail that naturally draws focus. Now, to be clear, raising that question doesn't automatically lead to conclusions. It just highlights something that stands out. And right now, that detail is sitting there without a full explanation attached to it. And that's why it keeps coming back into the conversation. At the same time, people are also looking at patterns, not just one isolated moment, but how certain situations line up across different contexts. When similar types of questions appear more than once, it adds weight to the discussion. And that's where comparisons start happening. Not as accusations, but as observations. People look at timelines, they look at decisions, and they try to understand the bigger picture. Because once attention reaches this level, it doesn't stay focused on just one headline. It spreads across everything connected to it. Now think about where things stand right now. The visit is still planned. The events are still scheduled. The conversation is still active. Nothing has fully settled yet. That means everything from this point forward carries more impact than usual. Every update, every clarification, every decision, it all shapes how this story continues. And that's what makes this moment so important, because it's not about what already happened. It's about what happens next. Will there be more transparency around the financial details? Will organizers address the unanswered questions directly? Will any part of the plan shift based on the public reaction? Or will everything continue exactly as it is, with the discussion growing louder around it? Right now, it feels like people are watching more closely than ever. Not casually, but with real attention. Because once a story reaches this level, it doesn't just disappear overnight. And here's the reality. No matter where someone stands on this, whether they support it or question it, the interest isn't going anywhere. The conversation is locked in. Because when you have this many moving parts at once, the petition, the pricing, the timeline, the reports, the response, it creates something bigger than any single detail. It becomes a full situation that people want to understand from every angle. And that's exactly where things are right now. So as this continues to unfold, one thing is clear: this isn't finished yet, not even close. There are still pieces that haven't been fully explained, still questions that haven't been fully answered, still developments that could shift everything again. And that's why the next update matters so much. Because buried inside that same February 24th report, that same document people are still going through, there are details that haven't even been fully broken down yet, details that could add even more context to everything that's already been discussed. And when those details come into focus, that's when the story could take another turn. So if you've been following this from the start, you already know. This is one of those situations where every new piece changes how the whole thing looks. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's been trying to figure it out too. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. Stay locked in, because the next one goes even deeper into the details that haven't been fully unpacked yet, and you don't want to miss what comes next. See you on the next one.